On, Commanders fans? It's Anthony Armstrong here. Brian Murphy's on the other side of the screen. It's the Believe in Commanders podcast, and unfortunately, we're following up with a bad loss to the Browns, and no offseason, no postseason play for the Commanders this year. But Brian, how are you doing outside of the unfortunate performance on Sunday?
Yeah, all things considered, I'm doing pretty well. It's a new year. Unfortunately, it started off pretty poorly for the Commanders yesterday, but the family's doing well. We're ready for a big 2023. But yeah, it was not good in Commanderland, that's for sure.
That is the truth, but it's all good over here. We're still going to be, rocking with you, and maybe we get to hang out for some playoffs a little bit.
Yeah,
And so
there we go.
it'll be good to talk ball. And it sucks that I not have a dog in the race, but then it's also a little bit less stressful when there's no dog in the race. So you just kind of get to sit back and watch. But yeah, the rest of the NFC East is going to be involved in it. But anyways, BetOnline is our sponsor. Let's always talk about them. So Brian, tell them about BetOnline.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll have some big playoff bets that you're able to make. Obviously, NBA in full swing, and we still have some bowl games going on. So BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from NFL, like I said, to bowl season, to even esports. You'll always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. And don't forget that BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite leagues and events. So head on over to betonline.ag to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure you use our promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to receive your rewards. BetOnline, where the game starts.
And speaking of those bowl games, did you see the two semifinal games? You had the one out there in the Fiesta Bowl. That was a classic. Shout out to TCU for the upset over Michigan, and then the Ohio State Georgia game. That was a classic. That was some hellified football.
Yeah, my neck of the woods. Georgia fans are very happy with the way that ended, right at midnight almost. So yeah, it was about time we got a good college football semifinal. Usually there's one that's a blowout, and every now and then there's one that's good, but both of those games were classics. Yeah, it was a good way to start off the new year for sure.
Yeah, and I can say I hadn't watched a whole lot of college football all year. I mean, it's between kids and just everything else going on, and just trying to stay up with the Commanders. I didn't watch a lot of college ball because you would get a lot of blowouts. Like you just see a team just roll over their opponent, and that's really not exciting to watch. But to see the way that these two teams, or four teams, I should say, battled back and forth, and frankly, as it sits now, you kind of got to start looking at some of those rosters to see who can help your team in the NFL. So I'm excited to see who goes on. Real quick, though, I think the TCU's a 13-point dog against Georgia. Who you got in that game?
I haven't thought that TCU was going to do much, and then they proved me wrong against Michigan. That being said, Georgia is a different animal. I feel like that it's going to be a pretty hefty win for them. I'd love for it to be for me to be wrong and it'd be another close one, another classic, but I don't see how Georgia slows down after that thrilling of a victory.
Yeah, it's dogs and frogs, so at least you got some rhyming
fun.
going on. It'll be fun, dogs and frogs. I'm gonna cheer for the Texas team. I'm cheering for TCU to see if they can get this thing going. But let's just jump right into it. Let's get to talking about the Commanders versus the Browns. That bad loss that happened. Overall, I listened to the game, and it didn't start out well. I mean, I could hear on the radio call the chants for Heineke. They were wanting Heineke to get in the game after first interception, second interception. And it was just like, this isn't pretty. This is not the spark that they were looking for whenever they made the switch back to Carson Wentz. So what was your thoughts after the game?
Yeah, it's funny you say spark. They certainly weren't looking for 10 points and 3 interceptions. I'll tell you that much. And especially when we kind of talked about it, kind of for us felt like Taylor Heineke turning over the ball was the final breaking point in the switch to Carson. And then for Carson to come out there and throw 3 interceptions, his first one on his second throw of the game. It was just absolutely brutal. It started bad, it ended bad, and there was the one good drive for the touchdown in between. Other than that, it was just uninspired football by a team that had everything in front of them, And even though they had lost 2 in a row, they still had a chance to go to the playoffs, control their own fate. And they threw up a big goose egg, and now their season all but one more almost like exhibition game left is over.
Yeah. I will say hindsight probably shouldn't have made the switch.
Nope.
And when you look at the turnovers, that like the fumbles that happened for Taylor, honestly, a lot of that was he was trying to get out of the pocket. He was trying to evade some pressure, and defense made good plays. And I would say that you kind of have to protect the quarterback more, and then he doesn't fumble the ball. Yes, I know he threw some interceptions here and there, but when you pull the guy who is the spark plug, if you will, for the offense, the guy that inspires the other guys to get going, I mean, shoot, maybe that's something that the team wasn't really, all about. And I sent you an Instagram post that, what was it, Reuben Foster, I think it was.
Reggie Ragland, who
Reggie
played them
Ragland,
yesterday.
Yeah, for the Browns. He was saying, oh, yeah, we know that, Wentz has slow delivery and you kind of tell what he's going to do. And it's unfortunate to see that whenever other teams kind of know what's going on and they can just play aggressive. I think it just took away some of that continuity that they did have going. But hey, it is what it is now. Now you have to look forward. You have to look forward and figure out, what are you going to do in the offseason to fix this team? What are you going to do to take that next step? All in all, I think, I'm looking at the Pro Football Reference. I mean, they expected to win 6.7 games, and they're at 7 now. 7-8-1 is their current record, and they're going up against a tough Cowboys team that really has nothing. They're fighting for a NFC East title, so it's definitely not going to be an easy game coming up. So, hopefully they can finish up with a strong effort and put something good out on the field. But all in all, it ended up being just an ugly, ugly loss. I mean, Amari Cooper went off. I mean, Deshaun, Watson had a pretty solid game. Nick Chubb got over 100 yards.
And Deshaun Watson, 9 completions, but 3 of them were for touchdowns. That's just absolutely brutal. He hadn't been able to do a whole lot, and you kind of got him going. And it was bad all around. The defense thankfully played inspired, kind of like they had all year long. Otherwise, it could have been worse than it was. They kind of stood on their head a couple of times after those turnovers, but eventually you keep giving the ball back to the other team and on short fields and not sustaining drives, that defense is going to break, and they did. And it just was everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong. Even John Allen getting knocked out of the game. They think it's just a hyperextension, but hopefully it's not anything worse moving forward. Long term. It's frustrating. Really, really frustrating.
It really is. And I know we always talk about 24-hour rule, but this one sucks. This one stings a little bit more because it's just like, golly, man, like it was there. You had an opportunity and it slipped. I don't want to say it slipped away. It was just dropped. Mm-hmm. It was just dropped. I mean, that's definitely not the performance that you want. Unfortunately, there's another game that they could play where you can kind of, you could make up for it, if you will, by beating Dallas and putting up a good performance against those guys. But right now, none of the pages that I follow on the IG are very happy.
No.
Brad Mitchell's not happy. Nobody's happy, and deservedly so. I mean, deservedly so. The criticism is definitely deserved right now. Deserve it. And I've always say try to find something positive in the negative, but right now it was just a bad showing. I won't say experiment, but switching back just didn't work. It didn't work. And now you just kind of got to rip out, tear that page and keep it moving.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we understood the need for a spark. But you're right. Looking back, a guy goes 5-3-1 after you had started pretty poorly. You kind of want to keep that guy in there, whether or not, it's pretty. He was getting the job done for the most part. I understand the month of December was tough, but it ended up being a bad move. So it is what it is. How does that for you? I was getting pretty fired up. I was ready to clean house yesterday, and I still could be talked into it for sure. But how does that affect your thoughts on Ron Rivera? We also saw that he might not have even realized they could have been eliminated. I don't know if you saw that one in the post-game press conference. It just felt like yesterday was kind of like the boiling, everything came to a head. The whole frustration of the month of December, where they just really needed one game to kind of solidify their playoff chances, and they couldn't get it. What are your thoughts on Ron Rivera? What are your thoughts on the assistants? Are you ready for a change? Where you stand on that with one game left?
No, I mean my stance on Ron Rivera is the same as it was earlier in the year. I think that he's been great for the team and the culture and being able to navigate the storm that they've been through with investigations and ownership and just
Absolutely.
everything. And like I said, inside that building, it is definitely a place that you want to be. Like you feel welcomed and you can tell that it's much improved. And from that state, he needs to still be around so they can continue to guide that thing forward. But on the field, I really think that you need to get some youth. You need to get some more creativity on both sides, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and you got it. You're going to have to switch some things up. I think that if you're going in with the same staff, you're going to get more of the same, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And no disrespect to them, but I mean, hey, they're pros. They've been in this league a long time, and this is a results based league, and what you've gotten hasn't been good enough. It won you the division a few years ago, but the division has definitely elevated across the board. And one thing I can say that it's not as much on field that you need to fix player wise. I think that you're close. I think they're much closer than they were when they started the season. I think you got to focus on keeping that defense together, improving the O-line. And I continue to say improve quarterback play. I don't know if there's David Carr is the answer, or, I don't know if anybody out there, it doesn't matter who you get if you can't keep them upright.
Right.
So ultimately, I would like to see some more creativity on the defensive side. You probably need some more depth on the defensive side. I mean, shoot, you see how much it hurts whenever you get one person out.
Yep.
Cam Curl is out, and that takes away a lot of what you were able to do on defense. And you see how that worked earlier in the year and happened now. So do you need to make a change? I would think so. I think you need to find a different defensive coordinator, new offensive coordinator, somebody's going to be able to add some creativity and some spice. Because I was thinking about this. We looked at the statistics for Carson Wentz in his career.
Mm-hmm.
He's been most successful throwing to tight ends. Okay, and I like Logan Thomas. He's been good for the team, but your most dynamic players are at the receiver position.
Yeah.
And you need to find a way to get those guys the ball more often. And you've shown that you're going to be physical and be able to run the ball with Brian Robinson. I think he's going to be able to bring a lot down to the table for years to come. But when you switch quarterbacks, that literally starts to change the dynamic, because Carson is like, I'm going to 82. Yep. Whereas Terry's like, not Terry, but Taylor's like, I'm going to Terry. I'm going to these other guys.
Yep.
And that butts heads a little bit, right? And just the way those things work out, it didn't mesh well on the field. You need to find a play caller that's going to bolster the talent that you have. You got 3 talented receivers. And whenever those guys are put to the use the best, you see the offense have some success, and you figure out how to score some more points. But you're going to have to make a change somewhere.
I think so too. And the more I think about it, I think it kind of comes down to, I think we think this team is going to be sold sooner rather than later. Now, when you're moving $7 billion worth of property, whatever it is, I'm sure it'll take a while. To me, that makes me think that I don't know that Ron Rivera is going to be going anywhere when, if this deal's not done by April, let's say, and then that's the draft. Are you really going to bring in a new coach that quickly? Does the new owner want to say anything? So it makes me wonder if Ron Rivera is not going to come back by default. But I'm with you. I think some of the Scott Turner, Jack Del Rio, I think you got to switch some things around. I'm with you. I think that if you're okay with being right around 500 and maybe sneaking into the playoffs, that's fine. That this is what you're going to get.
Enough, though.
No, it's not. It's not. I've seen a lot of people say, well, it's better than what we've had. Well, why is that? That shouldn't be the measuring point. Being good and going to the playoffs repeatedly every single year should be the measuring point. And so I think it's okay to strive for a little bit better than mediocre. And that's why I think you're absolutely right. I think that they need to make some changes. I think they need somebody, like you said, that's creative. We see a bunch of offenses,
Yeah.
players that are just making huge plays because these coaches are putting them in the best scenarios to make things happen. The Bears can barely win a game, but Justin Fields is putting up crazy numbers because they keep putting them in good situations. I keep going back to him and some of these young quarterbacks, and young, playmakers out there. I think
Yeah.
that you my ideal situation is, let's say Ron Rivera does come back. Hopefully it's with an up and coming offensive coordinator who is able to utilize all these weapons that they have. And then it's kind of like a Tampa Bay scenario where Bruce Arians kind of moves up to the front office. Can Ron Rivera do that same thing, knowing that this offensive coordinator or even the defensive coordinator is kind of the coaching and weight, the Todd Bowles of this organization, and then can step in and kind of effectively run the football side of things while Ron Rivera continues to do great things off the field, like we've already seen him do, and continue to make this a place where people want to go to, where, employees want to work, not just on the football field, but in the front office and facilities, all that kind of thing. I think that might be the best plan moving forward. But regardless, something has to change, because you can't. This is almost exactly the same as it was last year.
Yeah.
They started, I want to say 2-6 last year, something like that. They went on a 4-game win streak to get back to 500. They lost their last 5 or 6, whatever the math works out to be. Again, this year they lost they won a late season game to get to 7-10. They do the same thing. They start 1-4. They get back right over 500, get to 7-5. And then they drop they're 0-3-1 since then. So you can't keep doing this. It's not effective. It's not going to get the job done when you see, like you said, the NFC East is just continuing to get better. All 3 teams are in the playoffs, and you could have been there. And so it's frustrating, and it's obvious that something's gotta happen.
Yeah. One thing I just thought about as we were, as you're amidst the ownership change, that means a lot of stuff could change. Owner could come in and say, I want a new GM. I want a new team president. I want a new everything. I mean, they could really clean out the cupboard and start all the way over. So in that instance, just to your point of saying, do they keep Ron Rivera in that? I mean, now you got to think of Martin Mayhew. Is he going to still stick around? I mean, honestly, I'll tell you this much. I've never been in the front office of an organization, but I could just feel, in my eyes, I feel like you have to have a plan that's from the top to the bottom of, this is how we're going to do things. Mm-hmm. And whoever you bring in, you see a lot of time they bring in new coaches, and then the coach wants to change all this other stuff. But when you look at some of these other storied organizations, Pittsburgh and Green Bay, and they do things a certain way. Pittsburgh is going to run a 3-4. I don't know if they'll ever change from that.
Right.
Point blank period. Right. Baltimore is starting to fall into that same breath too. Like, they're going to run a 3-4. They're going to run physical defense. They're going to be physical. Like, develop that identity as an organization. Develop what you're going to do as an organization and stick to it. Don't, because if you keep changing 3-4, 4-3, you got to change people on the field. Now you got to wait. Well, I got to wait for my guys to develop. You don't make any progress. Right? You've got a defense that can be extremely dangerous. Are there a few pieces that they can improve upon? Absolutely. Sure. But I know if I'm a defensive player and I'm a free agent, they're like, man, they need a cornerback. Okay, well, man, they got these people up front. Maybe they can do something, right? And if I'm an offensive player, maybe I can be a player that helps take this team make that next step. But you got to have some sort of direction. You got to have something in line, some plan from the top to the bottom to say, this is how we're going to present this thing. This is what we're going to do moving forward. I mean, you got to think some people maybe are just kind of sitting on the eggshells because, like, we don't know what's going to happen. If a new owner comes in and it's like, we don't want the GM that's here, then you're going to have a whole new GM, and you potentially have another couple of years where you're just trying to figure out what's going to happen. But who knows? It's a lot going on. But we did speak about storied organization. We spoke about Ron Rivera maybe not knowing that they could have been eliminated. Maybe didn't expect it. Hopefully that was what it was. But they are definitely eliminated from playoff contention because the Green Bay Packers put a whooping.
Yeah.
On those Vikings. I know I said it. I said all that coming back. that stuff ends up biting you in the end eventually because you can't keep that up. That's tough
Yeah.
to do. They had 10 comeback wins. Minnesota had 10 comeback wins this season, most of the NFL. That is hard to do, and
Well,
it's impressive, but ran out of luck.
yeah. When they have 12 wins and 10 of them are come from behind, we know the most historic comeback in NFL history. We know the game in Buffalo. There was all this crazy stuff, but yeah, you can't sustain that. And now you're kind of looking, if Minnesota ends up with the 2 seed, 3 seed, whatever it may be, you kind of looking maybe one of those teams can upset them, whether it's Dallas, New York, or Green Bay here. So yeah, that was a beat down by the Packers. So yeah, you're right. The Commanders, despite losing to the Browns, still were alive for a matter of 3.5 hours, but pretty early on, we saw the Packers put the beat down on old friend Kirk Cousins, and they caught up to him. And so the Commanders were eliminated because the Lions, the Packers, and the Seahawks all won. And so it went the opposite way there. And so now the Commanders are out. All
Yeah.
those games were going their way for the longest time, but now it kind of, like you said with the Vikings, it comes back to bite you in the butt.
Yeah, but this is not a league where you can rely on somebody else to help you get to where you need to get to. I mean, just you take care of your business, and then the chips fall where they may. But you definitely can't sit back and think you're going to back into something. But I won't say it's a blessing in disguise. It may be good that you don't have to worry about playoffs, right? Just go out here, start focusing on the future, and figuring out how you're gonna fix this team and what you're gonna do moving forward.
So I was kind of texting you. My son is so mad. I don't know if you can hear him crying in the background. I get it, buddy. I'm mad too. But so we were kind of talking about what do you do at quarterback. I think that was immediately the question that everybody asked as
Mm-hmm.
soon as Carson Wentz threw that third interception. I think everybody, even before then, I think they were wondering what they do at quarterback. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have a chance to go to the playoffs. Where had you won against the Browns, you would have to face a tough Dallas team. So let me ask you, who are you starting at quarterback on Sunday with the season all but over? And what is there to play for? Yes, you could get a nice win in the rivalry against Dallas. Some would say I never want my team to lose, but some would say they want them to lose to continue to boost that draft pick up a little bit. I think they could finish all the way up to 10th if things go the right way or wrong way, depending on how you look at it. Who are you starting at quarterback? You got three options. Taylor Heineke, Carson Wentz, who we've seen. Do you bring in Sam Howell for his first career start in the last game? What are you thinking? What is AAA doing if he's the coach on Sunday?
Man, I tell you, I think that initially, before Minnesota took that L, I'm like, you got to go back to Heineke because you could hear the fans chanting, and they were fighting for this guy to be back in the game. But now it's almost to the point where you're like, you know what? Let's see what Sam Howell can do. And I know that that's definitely a tough matchup, a tough test, first game against a rival, a hated rival by the organization, and with a hellified pass rush, and but shoot. Sam Howell maybe just the spark that you need. Somebody who's like too young to know that he's supposed to be scared and worry about this team. So I'd say you gotta try him, or it's got to be Howell or Heineke. I don't
Yeah.
think that you can. I don't think you can throw Carson back out there, even though you like maybe you're trying to force it and let him, put up a good performance. I think fans would be absolutely irate if they threw Carson back out there to
Yeah.
start. I think you gotta try Howell just to see what you got, see how he plays, and then other than that, you got to go with Heineke. That'd be my play.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think you got to go with Howell for the reason that you said, see what you have in Sam Howell, but also with it being a home game, if you want any burgundy and gold in the stands, I don't think you can put Carson Wentz out there. I personally, he would be my inactive quarterback on Sunday. I think you saw everything you needed to see from him. So yeah, go see what you have in Sam Howell. Maybe he puts up a performance like Jarrett Stidham did yesterday. I think I saw
Yeah.
that Jarrett Stidham and Patrick Mahomes were the only quarterbacks to throw 3 interceptions against the 49ers defense. So maybe, like you said, he doesn't know what he doesn't know. So just throw him
Yeah.
out there, see what he does, and see if you have a guy for the future. Because as of right now, I think that Sam Howell is the only quarterback of the 3 on the roster next year. I don't know if that's a hot take. I don't see how you can bring Carson Wentz back after the failed experiment early on in the season and yesterday. Taylor Heineke is a free agent. Does he want to come back with the way it's ended? Sam Howell might be the only quarterback that you have on your roster. Might as well see what you got.
Yeah, I think you got to keep Taylor in the building.
I
I
think
think that,
I would love to have him. Don't get me wrong. I'm just curious. He's a free agent. Does he want to go try somewhere else? Is
yeah.
he frustrated with how things ended? That's kind of the only reason I say that.
I feel you on that one. What was Deion Sanders was telling players when they were trying to go into transfer portal? He was like, "Hey, the grass ain't always greener.
Right.
Sometimes you try to leave and then you realize you may not have much value on a lot of the teams." Not trying to knock Taylor, but I mean, like. You did Washington is a place that you're familiar with. You're familiar with those players, and I think that you can elevate your play. And at least he'd be a good, solid, option to back up somebody that can, be there and help tutor and mentor some guys. But you definitely got to see what Hal is, and you don't know what you're going to get out of the quarterbacks in the draft if that's the route that they want to go. Don't even know if that's the real option. I mean, I'm focused on fixing the O-line. I'm trying to figure out how you're going to keep your people upright. Like there's going to be got to be some really good guys that are going to be able to fill in. You got to keep people healthy. I mean, there's so many things that need to be addressed. I mean, I'm a guy that would, if I'm playing Madden, if you got a great quarterback already, then you got to fix stuff around them. If you don't have a great quarterback, hey, well, you'll find the quarterback eventually. Start fixing the other stuff, and then because I don't think that you can continue to miss at the quarterback position. Like they already say it sets you back 10 years, but you can't. I don't think you keep missing. Try what you got, and fix everything else, and then you can definitely distinctly circle and say this is a position that we need to improve, and then that's when you can go all in and go get that free agent, because for free agent quarterback, especially ones that they're older, they're not looking to go into a rebuilding situation.
Right.
They want to go in and be ready to compete for titles. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, give them a reason to want to go to Washington would be my play.
Yeah. And I think what you said earlier was, I think that on the field, they are closer than it seems after a disastrous loss yesterday. They have a lot of really good pieces there. I think they just need to shore up a few things. Hopefully you can bring Daron Payne back, because I think that guy just keeps making money every time he steps onto the field. He was a positive from yesterday. I think you already mentioned Brian Robinson, I think, is your running back, at least for the next few years. So you have some positives. You're absolutely right there, but you got to keep whoever it is upright, because that offensive line has been scary. And maybe ironically, they played not so great on a day when they were honoring the Hogs, and another Hog made his debut out there. It was frustrating. I'll tell you before we get to the mascot reveal. My dad went out there to the game, and he grew up watching the Hogs, and man, he was so disappointed being at that game. He said that was kind of the thought around everybody that was there. They were honoring the legacy of a really iconic group from the past, and then to come out there and do what they did yesterday made it even more frustrating. But I think a cool debut was made yesterday. I'm curious your thoughts. Major Tuddy makes his debut. The pig, the Major Tuddy. He's got the Army helmet on.
Yeah.
He's got the commander's shirt. I kind of like it. What are your thoughts on Tuddy?
Yeah, I unfortunately didn't get to see him. I saw some social media stuff, and I'm still kind of digesting that a little bit. I'm still kind of taking that in. I like that they have a mascot. I like that they're honoring the Hogs, and obviously we've got to mention that the original Hogs are like suing the team over trademark. So like, it's a frustrating thing to have that kind of be tied to it. So I don't even know if he's going to get to stay around, or if they're going to have to cut a check to the original Hogs for it. But I'm glad that there is a mascot. I'm glad that it's something that people can get around. And they did poll fans. They did do a poll to come up with, what the mascot should be. I would say if I had to fix some things, I'd probably doll him up a little bit more, probably have him some Army fatigues on,
Yeah, there
give
you
him a
go.
little bit more going on in the uniform wise. But you know what? It's okay. It's all right. I mean, hey, it's something. It's just, I think the outcome of the game really over over overwhelms and just
Yeah.
overshadows is the proper term. It overshadows Major Tutty's debut there, but I'm
Yeah.
excited to see how he's utilized moving forward. So shout out to Major Tutty. Glad to have you around, man. I'm sure they're hopefully, I don't know. That's the other thing. There's lawsuits there.
Uh-huh.
And like, if that lawsuit goes bad, like Major Tutty may get scrapped. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. Who knows what's going to happen?
Well,
It's so much happening right now.
and also with a new owner, I don't think this would happen. But what if a new owner, say it's Jeff Bezos, who basically runs Amazon, runs the world right now, it feels like at times.
Mm,
What if his stipulation is, I don't want this team to be called the Commanders? I mean, does that factor
mm.
in? Can he do that? I don't know that he can do that,
He got
but
enough money to do it.
I know that's what I'm saying. Like, what if the NFL is staring at a guy that's just gonna fork money over left and right, but his one stipulation is, yeah, but they got to be called something else. I mean, is Commanders gonna stay? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I could say this much. I've just having talked to the folks up at the facility. The fellow that gave us the tour, he was like, we did two major rebrands in, like basically 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
And it's a lot of work. Cause I mean, there's a lot of everything at the facility, has been, changed. Obviously they took down all the Redskins, items and the paraphernalia
yeah,
and all that stuff. And then they had to go Washington football team. And then that ended, and now it's Commanders. So like that would be a whole other thing to
yeah,
do. I mean, it's just another bill that would be put on the bottom of Bezos's, bottom line to knock out. But I mean, it'd be more work. But hey, I figure, hey, um, at this point, number one, you got to keep the W. All right, number one,
yeah. I
keep the
like that a
W, and
lot.
and I could say that's what I was told. They were like, hey, the W is something that it can just be iconic in and of itself.
Yeah,
You don't have to, regardless of what the other name is, you got the W, you can fly the W, and that's its thing. So I think you keep that. I think keep the colors, and if you whatever name you end up going to, if that's a thing, nobody, I don't know if it is right, but if that ends up being a thing, then it is what it is at this point. We've been through two, so there's
why
nothing.
not? Yeah, yeah.
At this
Well,
point, we change every couple of years.
I will say that having a hog as a mascot, as cheesy as it could be, I've seen some people really like it, some people really hate it. I think it's a nice tip of the cap to the past. Like you said, the past right now might not be so happy with where the franchise is right now,
Yeah,
but I think it made a lot of sense to make it a hog. I think that was really the only answer, in my opinion,
100%.
at least it was just kind of a cap tip to what this team used to be and hopefully the way they're headed. But yeah, I'm with you. A frustrating day on Sunday kind of soured the debut for our friend Tutty.
Yeah. Now, what else would have been really cool is if they had like a big old pot-belly pig that was like a real live one that was
That
at the
would have been
game.
sweet. Yeah.
That'd have been kind of cool. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Just big old sloppy thing over there,
Yeah.
just honking and
Kind
oinking
of
and
like
doing his stuff.
Ugga the Bulldog or Bevo for
Yeah.
Texas. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then
Yeah.
you can keep him, at a local farm, right? And he comes on out for the game. You give him a little like what a sash or something like
Yeah.
that, and he'll just be down there at the end. Kids can come take a picture with him and feed him. And I don't know.
Hmm.
That's neither here nor there. Hey, if they need help with that, they can holler at me. I would gladly
That's
work
right.
remotely to give them that. But let's make a quick transition. Just looking around the league,
Yeah.
just seeing some news, some notes, some things going on out here. Number one, we got to talk about, it's popping up on my screen over here. The Giants have clinched their first playoff berth since 2016. They're the sixth seed, and they're going to offer Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones multi-year contracts. What do you think about that?
Good for those guys. As much as I don't care for the Giants, I feel like that they've earned it. I'm still not sold on Daniel Jones. I think that he is the product of Brian Daboll. Really, can he do it back-to-back years? Let's put it that way. If he
Yeah.
comes out and has a huge year next year, maybe I'll start to be a believer. I wouldn't offer him a long-term contract. I think Saquon Barkley is the real deal. So
Absolutely.
absolutely would go, would want to keep him around. But as frustrating as it is, good for the Giants. It leaves an extra bitter taste in your mouth because that could have been you had that Sunday night game gone the other way. But
Yeah.
Brian Daboll is a good coach, despite the fact that don't like the team. I respect what they're doing, and I think he's going to make the Giants a team to reckon with in the NFC East. I think we've already talked about all three of these teams are solid, and the Commanders, they can be right there. I think they're close, but that's where we're at right now.
Yep. I mean, Daniel Jones has done enough to earn a contract. I mean, I'm interested to see what those terms are going to be and how long it is. But I mean, shoot, in this day and age, teams will cut ties quickly if they need to. So that's not much to going on. I did see one thing was pretty interesting. Malik Willis is not going to start in this final game where the AFC South is on the line against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Joshua Dobbs is in there. I don't know. What is that doesn't sit well with me. I wonder what's up with that? What's going on in Tennessee?
It seems like an odd fit so far. I mean, it's only his first year. I think we've seen plenty of quarterbacks that have struggled in their first couple of years, year or two, and have come out and played well. But for a guy that was signed 8-9 days ago, and he started last Thursday night for the Titans, and now that he's starting in the biggest game of their season over their rookie, yeah, that's odd. I'm not sure what's going on there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just a continuity thing. Like, hey, you've done it a week, and then now just keep it going, keep that same momentum. But Jacksonville, it looks good, man. They're starting to really get that thing cooking, and they played all their starters against Houston. They say we are going full bores ahead. We are not gonna slow it down. So I think that was the right play by them. I think Jacksonville's an up and coming team that the AFC is gonna have to deal with for a while.
And don't forget, with how good that offense has been, especially down the second half, they also traded for Calvin Ridley. I know he might be rusty coming off a year-long suspension, but a potential another weapon to go with, Kirk, who has been solid. Goodness, the Jaguars could be legit.
The Jaguars are definitely going to be a team to reckon with, and you saw Tom Brady did it again. Found a way to win and talked a little noise to anybody who sat Mike Evans in the playoffs. I looked at the stats of Mike Evans touchdowns. I was like, is this the same play? Like, did the Panthers not make any adjustments?
Yeah,
they just let this guy run by this DB every time. So Tampa Bay is doing their thing again. The Saints went up there, got a big win in Philly. Man, I don't know. It's just a crazy, crazy season that's been going on. But it's a good year.
Yeah, it's been a great year for football, and unlike the Commanders, a lot of playoff berths are coming down to Week 18. You got the Packers and the Lions coming up, to decide which of those teams is going to get in. Seahawks still around, like we've already talked about, the Titans and the Jaguars. So a bunch of meaningful games in that Week 18 slate. I know we got to break down Commanders, Cowboys, but I think we should spend a little bit more time on our picks episode, kind of talking about some of the huge matchups in Week 18. We'll do that later on in the week.
Yes, we will. We will definitely do that. I don't know. Right now, right quick, if you had to just make a spot effort, if one of these two teams makes it, Seattle or Green Bay, which one do you think is going to get in the playoffs?
Green Bay. They are feeling it right now. I don't see how they lose to the Lions. Lions have had a solid season, but Aaron Rodgers is feeling it, and they could be dangerous. Like we said, if they get matched up against Minnesota again, I could see an upset very easily there.
Yeah, I forget where I was. I don't know if you said it or somewhere else. Somebody else said it that the Packers have higher odds to win the Super Bowl. That was you said that?
Yeah. I saw somewhere the top 10 in odds, and number 10 was the Vikings, right ahead of them, I think number 9. And this was before this past week, so I'm sure it's jumped up a little bit even. But, yeah, Aaron Rodgers decided to be Aaron Rodgers during this last month of the season.
Man, I tell you. Football, man, NFL, it's definitely exciting. It's
Nothing
always it's special, man. It's a league that is every week is meaningful, and you can't expect to take a week off. You can't, try to sit back. You got to go out there and attack it. You got to take it. Yep. You got to really take it. And it got taken to the Commanders this past week, but that's okay. That's all right. You got more football coming up. There's going to be some improvements going on down the line, but I want to say this much. First and foremost, Thanks for listening, everybody. Where my little mouse go? There it is. Check us out on all your streaming platforms, guys. We're on TuneIn Radio, SiriusXM, Stadium, all those stuff. Podcasting, every podcasting spot you can find this place. Find this Believe in Commanders show. We'll still be hanging out with y'all going on through the playoffs for sure.
Absolutely.
And then once again, shout out to the folks on Bet Online. Go over there, use that code BLEAV.
Yeah, Believe. Go get that 50% welcome bonus. That means you put in $100, they'll give you 50 right back, so you're up to $150. So that's pretty awesome there.
Yes, indeed.
And we appreciate those guys helping to support the show all year long. Obviously, our pick shows, which we'll do again later this week. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. We hope 2023 is going to be awesome, and we appreciate you coming along for the ride.
Yes, indeed. Y'all be easy. Have a good one, and we'll see you later on this week.